Well, it worked. We actually got our countdown. Welcome back to Howard versus Cunningham, a UFC tradition. Andrew, welcome back, man. I know we had some problems with UFC 261. We kind of had to change some things around. We got some stuff posted out there at the last minute, but welcome back to Fight Night, man. I
Thank
can't
you.
tell you. There was 3 or 4 people sent me dirty grams because we didn't get our normal predictions out there. Welcome back, brother.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
So go ahead.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Thank you.
Just for everybody's reference, and our friend, our number one fan, Cheesecake, and the Molina boys down in Miami. We will normally be here on Friday nights at 8. We've kind of moved things around, and it's a work in progress. But Andrew, RiverCity-Media is really taking off, buddy, and we're hitting more and more markets. And we need some likes and follows. Let me plug it real fast, YouTube channel, RiverCity-Media. Of course, you're watching on Facebook now, probably. Facebook, RiverCity-Media, and Twitter, RiverCity-Media3. Please give us a follow, give us a like. It's real important for us and our future, as it looks like River City is going to be around a little while. But Andrew, let's get into the night's topic. We've missed a lot since our last conversation. We've got more news than I've seen in a long time. Let's hit that news segment real fast. What are you going to lead us with? That Usman news?
Yeah. So let's just recap 261 real quick, if that's cool. Some of the big spots.
Absolutely.
Kamaru Usman with a spectacular second-round knockout of Jorge Masvidal, which was shocking to a lot of folks because most people figured that would go to decision. That Kamaru would try to implement his wrestling game, but people don't realize how much power he's got, and he put Masvidal to sleep, which nobody does that. Consequently, he has moved up to the number 1 pound-for-pound rankings on the UFC rankings of all the fighters, and I think it's well-deserved after what he's done the past few years. Critics go after him all the time, but every time, he shuts them up in each fight. So, props to him. I love Masvidal, but, Usman's the man. He came ready to play, man, and a spectacular knockout. Unreal.
One question, number 1 pound per pound. I don't have any dispute on it. But how about our light heavyweight champion after his big win over the middleweight champion? Do you think that moves him towards the top of that pound per pound rating in your mind?
Yeah, he does deserve some more love, but I think maybe a few more wins here defending his title, will really cement him. But Usman has just really skyrocketed, and I think it's well deserved. Him being number 1, he is spectacular. And who's next? Personally, I'd like to see the rematch with Colby Covington because I had that fight tied 2 rounds apiece going into the 5th round before Usman got the TKO. That was a great fight. Colby challenged him, and I think he could give him a good fight again. I'm not saying Colby would win, but, I think he'd really challenge Usman really well. There's also the idea of the winner of the Leon Edwards-Nate Diaz fight, which will now be next month. It was supposed to be tomorrow night, and that had to be rescheduled due to an undisclosed minor injury to Diaz. But the money fight would be Nate Diaz if he wins that. Usman's managers openly said that he would love the Nate Diaz fight. So that's intriguing as well.
To me, it's intriguing, but does Nate not only need to win, but put on a decent show in the win to earn that fight?
Yeah, and I think that fight's more about a big-name fight. Nate Diaz draws money, draws crowds, but Colby really gave Usman a great fight in that first one. That was a great fight. And plus, with all the trash talk and animosity between those two, that's going to sell. So I say do the rematch. But we'll see how the Leon Edwards-Diaz fight plays out and what's going on with Colby. So that'll work itself out at some point. So we'll see.
Okay. Not a lot of disagreement there. I did think back at 260, Jan's win over Izzy was quite impressive, and it's left it's left the taste in my mouth that we've got a pretty good light heavyweight champion.
Yeah, for sure, man. He's awesome, dude. He's great. There's no doubt, and I'm looking forward to seeing his next fight. Also on to 261, I guess I'll go ahead and segment onto Thug Rose with an impressive KO victory as well in the first round against Zhang Weili. That was an amazing high kick knockout that I don't think a lot of people predicted that either. And it's pretty cool because, Thug Rose won the title a few years ago over Joanna Jędrzejczyk in 2017. She lost it to Jessica Andrade. She made the comeback, got the title back, and it was fantastic. The crowd just exploded. You had football players in the crowd giving her props. It was awesome, and I think she is a star. If the UFC doesn't realize that, they're crazy, but I think they do. And props to her, man. She's really cool.
The amount of people that's won a title back can probably be named on. I might go past one hand, but it's not very deep.
Yeah, it's not much. It's crazy how momentum's such a big thing in MMA. And once you start to hit a skid, as I'm going to get into that a little bit later with one of our fighters, sometimes it's tough to rebound. And she rebounded in spectacular fashion. So props to her, man. And that was a phenomenal kick. I mean, you had fighters going backstage congratulating her. Nick Diaz was in the crowd. He even went back and gave her a hug. Her and Kamaru Usman share similar coaches, and so they were hugging each other after the fight. It was pretty awesome.
It was a good moment for UFC.
Yeah, the whole night was really awesome and crazy knockout. Every fight ended in a finish, which the only sore spot was Chris Weidman with a horrific leg injury. He slings a kick to Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall checks it, and I mean, right then he tries to put weight on his leg, and you could see his foot bend, and it was grotesque to say the least. I mean, the crowd was shocked. They were panning the camera away from him because it was tough to watch because you wondered. I mean, he was already kind of later in his career, so you wonder if he's going to be able to bounce back or not. That was tough to see. It was really tough.
That was an Alex Smith, Joe Theismann type injury there. For the folks that didn't see it, use a comparison.
That's a great comparison. Yeah, I mean, that Joe Theismann leg break, that still bothers me to this day. I can't watch that. So that was tough to watch. They carry him off in a stretcher. I follow him on social media, and he seems like he's doing well after the surgery and everything. But as far as him bouncing back as a fighter, I don't know, man. Time will tell on that. So we'll see. Also, 261, you had Bullet Shevchenko dominant again. Nobody's surprised on that. They thought maybe Jessica Andrade with her wrestling and her takedowns could be able to give her a fight. But Valentina took what Andrade does well and used it against her. She took her down at will, got her in the crucifix, and just landed those elbows and stopped the fight. It was a dominant performance, absolutely dominant.
It wasn't for my boy Joe Rogan trying not to sell this as a fight that it wasn't a fight. But I really thought they built that fight well. And then within a minute and a half of the fight, you were like, everything they said was not pointless because she can out Andrade. So Bullet again proves that she's dominant. And outside of Nunes, I mean that women's division, it's Nunes and it's Bullet, and then it's like everybody else,
Exactly. You're right, man. They are top tier, and everybody else is way behind them trying to catch up. And and I don't get bored watching it, though. I like watching greatness, and her and Nunes are fun to watch, even though it's so lopsided. I mean, to think that in the Jennifer Maia fight a few months ago, Maia won one round, lost the fight 4 rounds to 1, and people were so shocked and surprised talking about how well Maia did, which she did, but she still lost 4 rounds to 1, and that speaks to Shevchenko's dominance. And the fact go ahead.
And there's a Holly Holm out there somewhere. There's a Holly Holm going to come into one of them's life.
Sure.
At some point.
You can't stay on top forever. And that's right. Yeah. But the fact that she's well known as a striker and a knockout artist, but the fact that she can just out wrestle these girls, out submit them. I mean, she's amazing. She has no weakness. You were talking about that a second ago. In her post fight interview, she said, these girls game plan for me and try to see what kind of weakness I have. And she said, don't waste your time. There's none there, which I realize that's cocky, but it's true. You know, I mean, they try to expose something on her and she just uses it against them. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was 261 kind of in a nutshell. Other stuff in the news, you know, Francis Ngannou, of course, is our new heavyweight champion. Everybody wants to see that that big fight between him and John Jones. That would be the super fight of the year. I don't know if you can think of anything that's going to be bigger than that. That's kind of in limbo right now. We're looking at probably money disputes. I think more on John Jones' end. He wants to get paid. I don't blame him. If I got in the cage with Ngannou, I'd want to get paid because that guy's a monster. But whatever he's wanting might be unrealistic. And the heavyweight division's stacked, and there's Derek Lewis hanging out there that was kind of undercutting Jones, saying that he would do it for cheaper. So I don't know if people want to see that rematch near as much as the John Jones fight, but it's out there.
What do you think of the things I've read in the last few days? You get Lewis versus Ngannou, and maybe John Jones versus Stipe. What would you think of that as a card in conception? And then you get the rematch if Stipe and Ngannou wins. But I think John Jones, Stipe, I think that's kind of I think folks would be interested in that.
I'd love it. I'd pay to see that. I would. I think it'd be great. Both fights would be amazing. It goes back to John, though. You know, when he's moving up to heavyweight, I think he's looking strictly at a title fight. I think it'd be a good idea. I think it'd be cool. You know, Stipe's the man. If he lost, that might be a retirement fight. But I don't know if I see that happening. But I agree. I would love to see that. I'd pay for that pay-per-view for sure. But he's bulking up, and I think he's looking right at the title. And it's just going to come down to money if they can work this out. You know, if the dollar signs come up. But you know, the pay-per-view will sell. It's just going to be if it's a realistic offer or not. You know, for the payday.
So the size of John Jones as a heavyweight completely filled out. Now, a lot of people don't know John Jones's brother is an NFL linebacker.
Right.
And it looks like John Jones is carrying somewhere in the 250 range, and it doesn't look unnatural. It looks more like a filled-out grown man.
Right.
So do you think that size is – I mean, you think he's got to enter the ring at 250 to compete with Francis?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to see him in there at 225 at the minimum.
Right.
You know, I think you got to bulk up. And he's going to have to implement his wrestling. Perhaps he could try to outpoint Francis, but there is no doubt Francis has got him beat on power. I mean, my God, he is scary when he lands those shots. And what's scary about everybody else fighting Francis is his wrestling has improved. Stipe shot that double leg, and when Francis sprawled, spun around and got him in the turtle position and started landing blows, I thought the fight was over there. So props to Stipe for getting out of the first round. That shows how tough he is. But the more Francis can grapple, the scarier it is, because that was the big knock on him, 3 or 4 years ago when Stipe dominated him in that 5-round fight was he can't grapple. Just get him on the ground, weather the storm, get out of the first round. Well, he's patient. I mean, they were talking about on Rogan saying that patient Francis is the scariest guy on the planet. He was waiting to take his shots. Yeah. So he's terrifying.
Did you leave with so I left with almost the same feeling I did with Jan and Izzy, that one human being, both great fighters, but one human being was just physically dominating than the other one. Right. And as great as Stipe is, it's a different kind of beast with Ngannou. And I just felt like it was just a great 175 fighter, a 175-pound street fighter, fighting a 220-pound street fighter. It's probably going to lose.
Yeah.
And when you get in the UFC,
size matters. Yeah. Exactly. So, that's why they have weight divisions in the UFC. That's why a lot of them are only separated by 10 pounds. Even a 2-pound difference is huge, in UFC, because these guys are all trained. They all train jiu-jitsu. They all train wrestling and stuff. It's not like back in the old days when, when 170-pound, Gracie could take out a 300-pound guy that was untrained in jiu-jitsu. Everybody's training. So size matters, man. It really does. And so when somebody's got 10 or 20 pounds on you, it's going to be a big difference,
One more comment. I want to blame you for this obsession on actually now
So
have
that's for sure.
UFC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went from I'm going to host a show for my friend to reading at night about it. So thanks, bud. One more sport in my life. That's all I needed.
That's good. Yeah, man.
So one more news article you want to get through. So let's bring us up to date on that.
Oh yeah, Jerry Prochazka, he had a spectacular knockout of Dominic Reyes. He could possibly be a new light heavyweight contender. His name's brutal to pronounce, by the way. So, but anyway,
Jerry,
he had
Jerry the King.
Yeah, there you go. We're just gonna call him Jerry the King.
Yeah.
Spectacular elbow knockout of Dominic Reyes last Saturday, and man, he might be your next light heavyweight challenger against Jan Blachowicz. We'll see. I mean, Glover, a lot of people thought Glover Teixeira would be the next guy in line, but you see a knockout like that and it gets the fans interested. And no knock on Glover, he's a little bit older. He's had his title shot. I think Jan would be heavily favored in that fight against him, whereas with Jerry, that kind of adds some intrigue and with his power as well. And that elbow knockout was vicious. It was almost tough to watch. I mean, God, and that shows you how much momentum plays too. I mean, Dominic Reyes a year and a half ago, a lot of people argued that he won that fight against John Jones, that he should have got that decision.
I think it was a 3-2. Was it not?
Yeah.
Okay.
And now he's dropped I believe 3 in a row now. So momentum's a killer, man. He went from like one round from being the champion, which a lot of people think he won anyway, to really being on a skid right now. So,
all right, if you're Dana White, let's talk light heavyweight for just a second. Do you not go ahead, and I think Jan would be a marked favorite over Teixeira.
Yeah.
But do you not give Glover the shot? And it's a money fight.
Yeah.
That's a popular UFC almost. I mean, Teixeira has been around since the light heavyweight days of it being the glory division of the last run of the Liddells and the Randy Couture's and the
I like
Forrest
that you brought
Griffin.
that up. Yeah, that's awesome. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in.
That give him that shot. I mean, he's that age. I don't know if another year on the shelf or 6 months or 9 months does Glover any good. So get that fight out of the way, and then I think that is the next money fight. And if you're Dana White, you get 2 for 1 there, and you can get that in a late fall fight and then come back early spring.
Yeah.
And I think Jan needs to fight I think Jan is either a guy that's going to step up to become a bigger star. I really think his star in the general public took off a little bit. But he needs some wins, like you said.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a big money fight out there down the road with and I will not even attempt his name. With Jerry.
We'll just call him Jerry the King. I like
Jerry the King. So
man.
I really want to see Glover gets that fight. I really do. So
yeah, dude. I appreciate what you just said about the light heavyweight division being the glory days in the past, because that is a great point. When it was Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture and Rashad Evans and Rampage Jackson, man, there was just a row of killers, dude, and it was awesome to watch. And then it just goes to show you the dominance of John Jones when he won the title in 2011.
Cleared the whole division out.
Yeah, he cleared it out. Except Daniel Cormier did win it. He didn't beat John, but he did win it at one point. But other than that, John just really dominated for so long. So that does speak to the glory days of the light heavyweight division.
And Cormier is the one guy that could challenge John Jones. At light heavyweight. So let's not. I mean, And the guy that was kind of caught in that always seemed like the next guy up that never got there was Glover Teixeira.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, and I'll look back at one of the UFCs. I think he fought on the first UFC I ever watched. And
Yeah.
I think that was Liddell Couture too.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
And,
that's how long this guy's been
Glover,
around.
yeah, and he did get his shot against John Jones. Glover did. Went to decision, I believe. But yeah, Glover getting in there. He's a veteran. He deserves it. So that's cool.
Let's hear one for the old guys one time. I love this great. Feels
That's
that
right.
way.
Do it for the old fellas. Yeah.
All
Well,
right,
you
so
want to
let's
get
get
into
in.
co-main a little bit here?
Yeah, let's get in. And let me build this. As you knew, I've been a Tony Ferguson fan, and I am completely thrown by his behavior over the last year and a half. And, and I on the other side, we've talked about Dara Roosh is friends with our co-host on 3R Sports. They grew up together, and Rod's Meta. And I watched and I sent you I believe, the press conference today, and Ferguson's behavior and demeanor is just as unprofessional as I've seen.
Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah.
Is Ferguson, is he, I mean, there's been some claims that he's legit crazy. Is he legit crazy? Because he acted it today.
I think he does have some mental health issues for sure, and I can't speculate too much, but yeah, I do think so. I also think some of the trash talking and stuff he does is a little unwarranted. And then also, if I follow him on Instagram, and every day he's trash talking Habib, and I'm like, yo, man, Habib's retired. That fight has sailed. And Habib finally got tired of it and reached out and said, you've got, in Dariush, you've got a legit opponent in front of you. You need to focus on him. So, for sure, man. He's an enigma. He's different. He's got a different personality. Everything about him's different. His personality, his striking, the way he fights, everything.
He's like a train wreck. You can't take your eyes off when he fights.
Yeah.
And I think that's what attracted me to him. But let's step away just for a second. Let's talk about Dariush, currently ranked 8, a guy that's kind of, I mean, what do you know about him? Because I think general public, not so much.
Yeah, and I think, he's waiting to break out, and the win over Tony Ferguson could break him out. I do know he's got amazing jiu-jitsu skills. He's medaled in world championship jiu-jitsu. He's gotten medals in it. I believe he's won a world championship in no-gi jiu-jitsu. Tony Ferguson's got some awesome jiu-jitsu as well. He's a black belt under Eddie Bravo in the 10th Planet system. He likes Darce chokes so much he named his dog Darce. But getting back to Dariush, he's also a black belt in Muay Thai. He's 20-4. He's got 5 KOs, 8 submissions. He's got 6 wins in a row. He's poised to break out, and a win over Tony Ferguson will, skyrocket you. And I wouldn't mind seeing a good old-fashioned jiu-jitsu match, man. I know a lot of people love watching Tony striking because he can really put a beating on opponents and bloodies them up. There's an old meme that showed like his past 6 fights before the Gaethje fight, and these guys were just beaten and bloodied the way he slings elbows and everything. So a lot of people would like to see the striking. I wouldn't mind seeing him go to the ground, man, and see who comes out. I think it'd be pretty awesome. But Dariush has handled himself very well throughout this whole thing. He's been very polite, good demeanor, smiled. All the trash Tony talked, he just said, all right, man, I'm looking to see it. Let's see what you got. So he's handled himself well. And this could be just pre-fight, just building the fight. Who knows? But he's handled himself very well.
And there's a point in Dariush's career in 18 where he loses 2 fights and draws a fight. He loses to Barboza. He draws a fight with Evan Duham. And if you watch the fight he lost to Alexander Hernandez, he dominated that fight and catches a flying knee. That's a point in a guy's career where he could say, I had a nice run, but I'm not elite. But since that point, he's 6-0.
Yeah.
What does that little bump in his career, followed by 6 wins, say about him as a fighter?
I think it speaks volumes about him. I mean, how many people do you see come to a crossroads like that and they pack it up? This guy turns his career around, rattles off 6 in a row, and now he is co-main eventing a huge pay-per-view. So that's awesome. I want to see a jiu-jitsu match, man. That's because I'm biased, but I think it'd be really awesome. These guys go to the round. But
right.
So, little background on. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to ask you to get the background.
Yeah. So a little background on Tony Ferguson, which most of your folks will know Tony pretty well, but just in case you don't, he's a 25-5, 12 wins by KO, 8 by submission, Ultimate Fighter winner, Team Brock Lesnar. He's 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, 10th under Eddie Bravo black belt. I believe I just mentioned that. Very unorthodox, throws these crazy elbows. If you watch his training videos, he's like kicking metal poles and just doing stuff that looks like it's not human at all. His cardio is off the charts. I mean, I don't know how to quantify that. It's just he can go 5 rounds, no problem. He can take an absolute beating. I know you can't quantify that either, but watch the Justin Gaethje fight. My God, a human shouldn't take that many shots. And he was stood it until the 5th round when the ref was just like, all right, I've seen enough. He loves the Darce choke. Like I said, he's got some spectacular submission victories. I know he's got 2 Darce choke victories that were 2 in a row. He is on a 2-fight losing streak, however. He lost to Charles Oliveira, the gentleman who's in our main event, and he also lost to Gaethje, which I just mentioned, and both in pretty lopsided fashion. So again, going back to my point about momentum, and go ahead.
Well, I mean, he seemed to take objection to. It seems that Dariush helped Gaethje train for the fight against Ferguson, and that became a big point to his press conference today. I've always thought it was normal if somebody asks you to come into their camp and train for a fight like that. Isn't it pretty normal that you would reciprocate that, Andrew? I mean, it's not unusual.
Yeah, sure. And I don't know who knows. He may be just digging for, fight trash talk just to build the fight up. Who knows? Maybe he really is upset. I don't know. But it's crazy how momentum is, man. We're looking at a year and a month ago, he was going to headline the title fight against Khabib. That was our white buffalo, the thing we'll never get, because they tried to schedule that fight I don't know how many times, and once Corona canceled it, I'm like, we're never going to get this fight. But he went from and it never materialized. Khabib, of course, rides off in the sunset undefeated, and Tony's on a 2-fight losing streak. So I think that ship has sailed for ever getting that fight scheduled. But he goes from that to losing those 2 in a row. I believe he had a 12-fight win streak before the Gaethje loss, and that was a pretty big upset. So momentum's a real thing, man. It's crazy.
And Tony Ferguson, don't get me wrong, I still love him as a fighter. I just on this side, I'm in the other camp this time. Again, Ferguson, the owner of RiverCity-Media, which is one of our parent companies, Ferguson worked for him as a bartender for years. So it's strange. We've got a co-main event that's got really small world. So can I hit you with my rapid fire questions and get some responses from you?
Sure. Yeah. Let's go.
So Dariush has fought in some chaos in his career. And Tony Ferguson at his finest is chaos. Is Dariush's ability to win this fight, is his greatest ability is that he stays calm in that chaos, and he's been able to come back when he's been looked horrible at times in fights?
Yeah, that's a good point, man, because you're going to have to weather the storm with Tony. He throws some very unorthodox elbow shots. He does these Eminari rolls when you think you're getting a takedown on him. He does crazy stuff, and he can get you rattled. So being able to withstand that storm is huge, and that gives him a huge card in this fight.
So he brought Freddie Roach into his camp, Ben Ferguson. When I heard that, I thought that's a bad move. I mean, if Ferguson goes out and tries to throw the old 1-2, I don't think it's plays to his strengths, the crazy elbows and stuff. So if he's talking about improving his boxing, does it actually help him inside the cage? Or is it maybe a white buffalo that it doesn't help him to sit there and throw 1-2, 1-2 all night?
I'm interested to see it, man, because Gaethje definitely outboxed him when they had their fight, for sure. He was lighting him up on the feet. He also trained with George St. Pierre while he was with Freddie Roach. I saw some pictures of those two together. So maybe he was getting some advice because George was an amazing boxer as well. Everybody talked about his wrestling, but his boxing, his jab was amazing. So remains to be seen, man. I hate to give you an open-ended answer, but we'll see how it works out. But Freddie Roach is an amazing boxing coach. If people don't know, that's Manny Pacquiao's boxing coach, GSP
great
boxing coach for MMA. I mean, two of the best right there.
I'm a little older. I remember Freddie Roach as the fighter, training fighters back in the day. So, okay, couple more questions.
Yeah. So
this one bothers me.
Sure.
If you are Tony Ferguson's camp and your guy is 0-2, do you not put him in a 5-round fight? Because I think in my prediction later in this, if this was a 5-round fight, I think it's reversed. As you said, he's a cardio machine. If the other co-main can be a 5-round fight, why are they signing up the greatest cardio guy in the lightweight division for 3-round fights?
It's probably just timing and placement of the cards, man. Not everybody can co-main and main event. Every card, and that's probably it. Because it's probably just timing where he ended up on the card and everything like that. Because we talked about it earlier. Originally, the co-main was going to be Nate Diaz and Leon Edwards, and that was going to be a 5-rounder. And this was going to be like the third fight in line. So and you couldn't foresee the Nate Diaz postponement, Nate Diaz, Leon Edwards fight. So maybe a little bit of bad luck, maybe just the way the cards fell. But you gotta take what fights they give you, and sometimes they can't all be 5-rounders.
So last question for me: if Tony Ferguson loses this fight, is this the last time we see him in a UFC ring?
I don't think so, man. Because if you watch the weigh-ins, he got a massive pop when he came out. He's got a cult following. People really enjoy watching him fight. And not to mention, he was on a 12-fight win streak. He's different. He's unorthodox. He's just got a huge cult following. And I like watching him fight, despite all his antics and everything. So I think even if he loses, he'll still be there. But I think his title days are over if he loses, his title contention days. I mean, that division is so stacked, and you go 0-3 in your last few fights. I don't think he's getting axed from the UFC, but I think his contention days are over.
And 37 years old.
Yeah, and you're getting a little bit older, a little mileage on you. Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add on the co-main?
No, I think that was pretty good, man. You want to move on to the main event?
Absolutely. Let's move on, and let's start by. I think there's some people out there wondering who Chandler is, and we kind of covered when he fought Dan Hooker who this guy is and where he came from. Why don't you open it up by let's just talk about Chandler and Oliveira's path to this championship, not the interim championship, the light heavyweight championship.
Yeah, this is it, man. This is the real deal. So Michael Chandler against Charles Oliveira. I'm really looking forward to this fight. The path to get here for Michael Chandler is probably somewhat controversial. I don't think so myself because I've been following him since he was in Bellator. He is a 3-time Bellator champ. We were talking about Thug Rose coming back and winning the title after losing it. Well, he's come back and he is a 3-time champ. So that's impressive that he's been able to bounce back. He had a spectacular first-round knockout of Dan Hooker back in January on the McGregor-Poirier card. Chandler has been around for quite a while. People that are hardcore in UFC who haven't watched MMA for a while may not know him because they didn't really watch Bellator, but he was in Bellator since 2010. He's 22-5. Like I said, he was a 3-time Bellator champ. He medaled in the Big 12 championships back when University of Missouri was in the Big 12. He wrestled for them. He's got spectacular wrestling. He's out wrestled many opponents to get decision wins, but he's got a lot of power in his punches, as evidenced by the Hooker knockout again. So he's got great knockout power. He's been around for a while. People think he just showed up in the MMA, won a fight, and got a title shot, and that's not true. Now, he did show up in the UFC and has only got one fight under his belt. But I will say, I think the reason he was able to get into this title fight is the fact that Dustin Poirier turned down the title fight to take the Conor McGregor trilogy, which that was a money fight, and that was his choice, and you can't blame him. He was going for the big payday instead of the title shot, so that left a vacated spot open. He hopped in there. Oliveira deserves it. That man's on quite a winning streak, 8 wins in a row. He owns the UFC record for wins by submissions. 19 of his professional wins are by sub, and 14 in UFC. So he owns the record. So Oliveira being here, there's no question about that. He just dominated Tony Ferguson his last fight. He choked out Kevin Lee. He choked out Kevin Lee so bad, Kevin Lee passed out in the guillotine and then woke up and tried to tackle the ref. Yeah. So he is an amazing jiu-jitsu practitioner. But like you said, 2 different paths to get here. But I don't have a problem with Chandler being there, to be honest, because he's a veteran. He's been around. He just hasn't been in the UFC, longer than any of these guys because he's only got one UFC fight under his belt. But he's been in Bellator since 2010. So he's been around.
So today I got the question, and it's on my group chat with the 3R Sports guys, and they were like, if you pull the resume, and this guy didn't know anything about Chandler, but he's a fight guy, but he's a UFC guy. He said, if you pull the resume, Oliveira is just got a resume greater than Chandler. But the statement I made back to him is, this is the GOAT of Bellator in that lightweight division. So that resume really is more about Bellator than the UFC.
Right.
And in the lightweight division in Bellator, the dude was the guy for a long time.
Yeah. Had a great rivalry with Eddie Alvarez. Also had some fights with Benson Henderson. I mean, if you go back and watch some of his old Bellator fights, they were amazing. There's a documentary called The Hurt Business, which is excellent. That's really where I started becoming a big Michael Chandler fan. It's a documentary that follows MMA fighters around.
I just watched that last week, matter of fact. It's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Dude's legit, man. He trains at Sanford MMA Academy with Kamaru Usman, Gilbert Burns. There's a great video of him really doing some flow wrestling with Kamaru Usman and just looking at the skill level of grappling of both those gentlemen. It's fantastic. He trained with both of those guys leading up to their fight a few months ago. So he trains with killers. Anybody that thinks Chandler's not legit is crazy. Maybe you can argue if he deserves his title shot or not, but the man's legit. I know he's only got one UFC fight, but I love watching him fight. He's a little bit shorter for lightweight, but as evidenced in the Dan Hooker fight, it didn't matter. He didn't have reach or the height, but God, that knockout was spectacular.
So what do you say to the people that say that this should have been Justin Gaethje's fight over Michael Chandler? Is there some point to that? Or the people who say, well, they're just having this fight to set the winner up for Poirier and McGregor to come in and win the title? I don't see it this way. I thought Oliveira was the clear guy that deserved this shot after Poirier said no. Obviously, I thought it would be Poirier. But, Justin Gagey, Michael Chandler. Was that a coin toss? Was Dana White sitting in his office going, "You get it"?
I think the big thing even goes back to momentum. I know I'm preaching about that tonight, and Gaethje's the man. If he would have gotten it, I don't think too many people would fuss. But Gaethje is coming off a loss against Habib, where he was
Just had a title shot. Yes,
lost pretty soundly. He just got a title shot, lost in the second round. Chandler is coming off an amazing first round knockout. He's new blood as far as UFC. It's got the fans excited, especially people who followed him from Bellator. So his stock was going up a little bit. Gaethje's went down just a bit, but hey, he lost to Habib. There's no shame in that. Everybody loses to Habib. So I don't have a problem with this fight. I really don't, man. I'm pumped to see it happen. So I think that's the big thing. Gaethje got his shot, and he may be waiting around the wings to get another one.
Is it fair to say whoever wins the McGregor-Poirier fight is going to get a shot? Justin Gaethje's going to get a shot. This might round robin for a couple of years till we come out with a clear, dominant light heavyweight champion.
Yeah,
and might pass the title back a couple of times.
Yeah. You made a good point saying round robin. Who knows, man? This division is so stacked. But I think your winner, Poirier-McGregor, is probably going to face the winner of this fight. I think that's fair. I think either one of those guys, because Poirier's been so dominant the past few years, other than losing the Habib fight. McGregor, anytime he's in there, it's a money fight, and that'd be big. McGregor and Chandler, somebody's going to get knocked out. That's going to be an amazing fight if that would happen. So, yeah, that's fair to say.
If McGregor knocks him out, could we see a fourth somewhere down the road?
Oh, what's that? A fourth Poirier fight?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Who knows?
All right. You ready for the round robins?
Yeah, man.
Is this fight coming down to, if it ends early, Chandler wins? If Oliveira survives round 1 and 2, he wins the championship?
Yeah, I think Chandler is looking to go in there and, take him out pretty early. But with Chandler's wrestling, he can out-wrestle opponents and win a decision. However, does he want to do that with Oliveira? Oliveira is so dangerous on the ground, being a third-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, all those submission wins. I agree. The longer the fight goes on, I think it does favor Oliveira. I do think Chandler's going to come in guns blazing first and second round, try to end it there. So that's a fair point.
And that third-degree black belt, that's 20-plus years.
Yeah, that is a long time, man.
Yeah.
Everybody's different in their journey, but third degree, golly, that is on up there.
A journey, my friend, here is on.
Yeah. It's usually 5 years for every degree at black belt. So, yeah, man, that's a long path. A lot of mat time.
So we always, and one of my favorite things to talk about, is the cage Michael Chandler's friend in this fight?
Possibly, yeah, especially with wrestling. Maybe he's trying to implement that, work his wrestling, push him up against the cage, pressure, things like that. I don't know if he wants to go to the ground with Oliveira, and get in his guard. So tough to say on that one. I can see him trying to implement his wrestling, but I just don't know if he wants to go to the ground and try to play jiu-jitsu with that guy.
So this is probably one of the most open-end questions I've asked you on 5 episodes of this. Is this fight only one of two ways? Either it's spectacular or boring, and and no in between.
I think that's a fair point. I think we see a fireworks knockout from Chandler, or we see a fantastic submission from Oliveira, or as the thing goes 5 rounds and it might be slow. So that is a fair point.
And in 25 minutes, if they get on the ground, 17 minutes of it rolling is possible. 16, 17 minutes in my head could end up on the ground, even more.
Yeah.
One more question I didn't even have down there, but it's kind of hit me during the day. Does Dan Chandler have something to prove in this fight?
Does Chandler have something to prove?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think he wants to shut the critics up because he's tired of everybody thinking he doesn't belong or he's getting a shot after only one win in UFC. So I do think he's wanting to shut the critics up, despite being a 3-time champ already in Bellator and having all the accomplishments he has had. He's kind of the new guy on the block. He's like the new kid at school, and everybody else is, kind of giving him that look, and he gets the title shot, after winning in January. So he's got some haters, that's for sure, man. He's got some haters out there. I'm not one of them, but I think a lot of the fighters in their camps probably are that feel like he leapfrogged them. But Chandler's amazing. I'm not going to hate on him at all. I love watching him fight.
So, one day I would like – tonight we've got a time constraint, but one day I think I would just like to get on here and say we don't have a back-end time constraint tonight. And I swear I think we could go 3 hours and just talking about UFC. But unfortunately, we're down to the last 15 minutes of the show. So you know what that means. We're going to have to get into some prediction. But let me go ahead and let you have your last word on Chandler Oliveira. And we'll get the prediction a little later on. But last points of the fight for you.
I'm looking forward to it. I don't think it'll be boring. I really don't. But who knows? But it's going to be good. Oliveira definitely deserves to be there. I think Chandler deserves to be there. If Chandler would have leapfrogged Poirier or something crazy like that, then I would have been, upset. But I'm glad he's there. It's going to be a great fight. I'm looking forward to watching it.
And when do we get the McGregor-Poirier fight? Is that in July?
July, yes, sir. International Fight Week. It's usually July 4th week or the week after. I think it's July 10th or something. I'll have to look on my calendar, but it's in first part of July. So that's going to be the end of that trilogy.
I'm still saying they could be a 4th if you let one of them win the title.
Yeah, who knows, man.
All right, man. So we want to add a couple of fights to the predictions. You ready to go?
Yeah, man. Let's go.
So we talked about adding Shane Boris and Edwin Barbosa to our prediction because Randall is going to be betting and gambling on this fight. My MMA guru guy, shout out, that I've talked about, he really built the case that Barbosa at a plus 120 was a great value, and that this is a kind of spot that at plus 120 you could take an underdog and maybe make a little extra cash. So how do you see that fight breaking down?
Yeah, man. I love watching Barbosa fight. He's a veteran. The fact that he could hang in there when in the Khabib fight, he just took an absolute beating. He was still throwing spin kicks in the last round. He is a tough, tough customer, dude. He's got one of the best spin kick knockouts I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, dude, if he's the slight underdog, I'd go with Barbosa. Why not? See what happens there. But sure, I'll go Barbosa on decision.
Yeah, you can get a bet 10 to win 12 position on Barbosa on him now. So
yeah,
I like that too. All right, so we both agreed on the next fight, so I'll let you just kind of handicap it. We're talking about the ladies' fight, and why don't you, Caitlin, and I won't even try her last name, and Vivian, would you handicap that a little
Vivian
bit?
Ariejo.
Yeah.
I like Chookagian by decision. She's a decision machine. She's 15-4. And out of her 15 wins, 2 have been KO, 1's a sub, and the 13 others are decisions. She's a grinder. She likes to grind her way out. I'll go with Chookagian on this one in a decision. I don't know if it's going to be the most exciting fight in the world, but I would probably go with her to get the decision victory.
So to prove that you are correct, under 2.5 has got the biggest number I've ever seen in a UFC fight. If somebody can end this fight in under 2.5 rounds, you would pick up a nice plus 300, bet 10 to win $30. Man, awesome. This thing's made to go the distance.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll go the distance. That's what you're predicting too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Turkagan in a if if your pizza didn't deliver and you got to run out and grab it yourself, this is probably the time you want to schedule it. Not
Yeah.
being cruel, but
Yeah.
all
Okay.
right. Well, I think lightning flies thereafter. So
Yeah, man. We got
bye.
Dariush Ferguson. I'm gonna go Dariush. I think he edges out a decision. I think he gets him 2 rounds to 1. I think it's going to be a war. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I think he's up and coming, and Tony's kind of slipping a little bit. Anything can happen though. Tony's dangerous. He could always get the sub or get some crazy elbow knockout. He throws those spinning elbows, but I'm going to go Dariush, man. I think he wins and he propels himself up to be a legit contender.
Well, I too, and in getting to know Darius through Rod, you find out what a great guy he is, and this fight opened as a slight favorite to Darius, and as it goes, he's became more and more of the. I think we may have lost Andrew there. See if we can get him back on here.
No, I'm here.
There you go. We lost you for a minute.
Your screen went black.
You had the ugliest.
Yeah.
Yeah. You went. Well, it's my internet. We're getting gig here next month, so EPB coming to my home.
Yeah.
But I really like Darius. And over this week, I saw the odds spread. Now, if you're a gambler, Tony Ferguson at plus 135, I'm not sure I don't throw a little bit there. But
Yeah.
I think Darius gets him, but I think it goes the distance. I don't think he ends him. I think Cardiac Machine wins the 3rd round. I think Darius comes out, wins 1 and 2. And either by unanimous or majority decision gets the win over Tony Ferguson.
Nice. All right, man. Main event time. Michael Chandler and Oliveira.
So would you like to know how many times I flipped on this one?
Dude, that's exactly what I was about to say. I've gone back and forth so much. But because and to be honest, whatever happens, I'm unbiased on the night. Sometimes I'm biased, but I'm happy either way because I love jiu-jitsu so much that if Oliveira wins, then that's awesome. But I also love Chandler from the Bellator days, and I just think he's awesome. I'm gonna go Chandler 2nd round knockout.
Well, I'm gonna paint even a grimmer picture, and I really believe that if it doesn't happen in round 1, that Oliveira wins the fight. But I'm gonna go 1 round. I'm gonna go with Chandler 1st round knockout. I think in the 2nd round, I think Chandler Oliveira probably splits if we get to the 2nd round. That first minute of the 2nd round is going to be super dangerous if he survives the 1st round. If we get into the 3rd round, I look for Oliveira to really press this. But my pick is Chandler with a 1st round knockout.
Yeah.
So
sounds good, dude. A lot of people have been going on Chandler, even fighters. So we'll see what happens.
I really think if Oliveira can survive, dude, he wins the fight. But it's surviving is the problem. Now,
yes, sir.
That little 4-way parlay, if you want to play it, and if you don't agree with the Chandler, then play Oliveira. But go ahead and play Barbosa, Chicane, and then you play Dariush, and then play either one of the other side. You can get up to a plus 1,200. Play $10 to win $120. You can't beat that. So that's cool. That's my bet of the night. So
all right,
anyway,
man.
Gig City needs to come by next month, brother.
It's all good.
What's 263 main event?
Oh my God, that's going to be a good one. You got Israel Adesanya against Marvin Vettori for your middleweight strap. Your co-main event is it's Moreno against Figueiredo, which that's the rematch of that draw. That's going to be fantastic. And because it got postponed from this card, you got Nate Diaz versus Leon Edwards in a 5-round fight, even though it is it's below the co-main event because they had already signed on to do a 5-round, and that's the way they've been conditioning for in their camps. They're going to keep it as a 5-round. So those 3 fights alone, man, that's spectacular. It's going to be a great card.
We go back to 8 o'clock before the next one. I have a feeling that the next one may be one that I buy because I really want to see that fight. So,
yeah, man, that's going to be good. All 3 of them will be great.
Yeah, maybe we'll have some live updates. Any final words tonight before we get off here, brother?
I'm looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a good card. I'm disappointed that the Nate Diaz, Leon Edwards isn't going to be on it, but at the same time, we get it for the next card, so at least the fight wasn't totally scrapped. So that just makes the next card that much better, and it's going to be a great night. So
one-click plug, as we've been, we have now got them. Here they go, folks. They're in supply, sizes 3XL large down to small. We're doing a original stocking for $25 a shirt, hats for $20, and if you buy a hat and shirt combo, $40 out the door. Also, just hitting our little store, River City mouse pads. So, Andrew, it really has, River City's kind of took a life of its own, but the first show we ever did, the first show to ever be produced under the River City name, you and I done on an iPhone 6 in a hallway 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, and we went from that to 14,000 people hitting our website in 60 days. So, I mean, I'm thrilled with it, and I cannot go do any show right now until I thank our followers, thank our viewers. There's big news coming. This show is going to be here forever as part of this network. So thank you, Andrew, because we had to set that first night. We didn't even know how to get on the air. We had to sit like side by side like this and get in the frame.
Yeah.
And the first person to like River City Media, our boy Cheesecake.
MVP.
Yep. All right, brother. Well, go give those babies a hug, man.
All right, man. Well, good night.
Right.
This was a lot of fun. Appreciate it. All right, man. Be good.
All right. Stay with me after I end here for a second.
Okay.